All right, we are back. This is Riders of the Dawn. I am Stu.
And I am Jay.
Today we're going to talk more about self-publishing. This is, what part are we on? Part 3? Part 3. We're going to talk about launching a book,
pre-orders, promotion, keywords, website.
SEO, all that kind of stuff that you need to know. Yeah. The thing is, we talked about this back on the first sort of podcast in this series.
Yeah.
You have to think about why you're writing a book and why you want to publish it. Because if your goal to write a book and publish it is to, feel good about yourself as an artist, then you don't really have to worry about a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
You can put it out and have it exist. That's like a base level motivation for me, is I want the stuff to exist. Yeah. But if your goal is to get people to actually read your story, if you want people to actually experience your art, then you do have to think about being competitive in a competitive marketplace and doing what you can to connect your book to the readers who actually want to read it. And I feel like we've repeated that like a million times.
Every single day. And my attitude towards it is, if you write a book for it to exist and nobody reads it, does it exist?
Yeah.
This is kind of an issue that I think a lot of creative people have, is that, well, I just have this urge to create, and it's all I want to do is I don't care about the money. And for me, I just think nobody does anything for free. Why do you want to do something for free? I mean, you put a lot of time into writing a novel, and it gets easier over time, but man, you're talking a huge time sink into a novel, and to not have any kind of return on that, you're going to burn out so fast.
Even the psychic return. The psychic return, to me, is much more powerful than the financial return.
Yes.
Because the psychic return is somebody liked my story, somebody read it and enjoyed it, and saw the things in it that I wanted to present that I thought were good. When somebody leaves me a review and says how much they like something and what they liked about it, it really, it's a very satisfying experience. If somebody says they don't like it, that actually doesn't hurt my feelings, because I know there's other people who do like it. Yeah. You don't have to like everything I do for me to feel good about myself. What really matters to me is that people took a chance on the book and felt like they were rewarded for taking that chance.
Yeah.
That's a really cool feeling. And so the psychic return for me is bigger than the financial return. But you're not going to get either one unless you can help people know that your book exists and that it's something that they should read.
Yeah. So the first thing we mentioned was setting up a pre-order, but I feel like before we can even really get into the mechanics of how to do that, you have to have a platform. And we've talked a lot about platforms in the past, and even in the past on this series. But a platform really consists of you having your own website that people will go to, people can see, and you can do promotion through people coming to see what you're doing. So your website is likely going to be the first place that people experience this idea of a pre-order or pre-sale. So they might see your website through social media, they might see it through Twitter, they might see it through Facebook, but they're going to go through your website and then to your Amazon page. Now to get people to your website, there's this other thing that we've mentioned a couple times called SEO, or search engine optimization. And this is really important, and I've known about it for a long time, and I've messed with it how I thought it worked in the past, and I actually just recently started using a WordPress plugin on my website called Yoast SEO. There's a paid version which has a lot more features to it, but essentially what it does is it takes your page, you set up a list of keywords through things like, author, fantasy, urban fantasy, things like that. Then as you write blog posts, each individual post, you set up keywords, which helps index your post to Google. So when people search with those specific keywords in mind, your post is more likely to show up. So if you're writing, if your book that you're wanting to set up a pre-order for is high fantasy, so let's say, let's use Stu's book as an example. Waters of Awakening, high fantasy, magic, fae realm, fairy tale. Let's say all of those would be kind of keywords that people might search in order to find something like that. Well, you want to first of all have your pre-order set up, and in order to have a pre-order set up, you have to have a book cover. You already have to have a book cover.
You have to have all the other stuff we talked about.
Yeah.
You have to have a properly formatted ebook. Mm-hmm. You have to have a book cover. You have to have a description. We should talk about descriptions and stuff.
But before let me finish this idea there. So once you have all of that, then you've got what's called your funnel, your sales funnel. So basically, then you write a bunch of blog posts about
your genre.
Yeah. So that you have a bunch of different posts that if people search up those keywords will rank high on a Google search. And then each one of those posts needs to independently link to your pre-order page, so that you have many different ways that you can find readers who are interested in what you're talking about and get them to your pre-order page. Now, your pre-order, when you set up your book on Amazon, again, we talked about this. You also have these keywords that are you want to make sure line up with what you did through your website, because that's how people don't just search for your books on Google. They're going to search through Amazon too, and you want to be able to make sure that lines up as well. But then that gets into description. So let's talk about description.
Yeah. So here's the whole thing about SEO. Before we go on, a lot of people think that SEO is like gaming the search engine to like manipulate people or something like that. You hear some of this stuff and you're like, oh, this is like what that guy at the Oatmeal did to get people to read his page when he didn't offer anything they wanted, whatever it's going to be. No, what SEO is somebody actually, you're trying to get the people who actually want your product.
Yeah.
You're not trying to like fool people or things like that. You're trying to get the attention of people who might read your book. And you're going to do that by optimizing it so when they are searching for particular terms, you are helping them with the information they're seeking.
Yeah.
One of the things that Derek Murphy says that you can do as a really easy blog post to get attention of readers is top 10 books in your genre. So we talk about this guy Derek Murphy. He just has a ton of information out there that's way this more advanced play of how to use the digital marketplace to sell your books for you, to basically make it so that you're actually connected to people who want to read your book. So you make, if you're writing in high fantasy, my top 10 high fantasy books.
Yeah.
And then you make a list of your 10 favorite books in that genre and talk about why you like them. And a lot of people will search that. They're like, I want some more high fantasy books. Let's type that into Google. Bam, your page comes up pretty high on the ranking. They click it, they read it, they figure out you read a book. They're like, well, maybe I'll check out his book. And once you get them clicked onto the Amazon page, or whatever platform page you want to sell your book on, then you have their attention, and they can read your description, see your book cover, and decide to buy it. And that's the ultimate goal, is to get people to from their interest area down into where you want them to be, which is on your page, on your product page, where they can make a decision to buy the product or to not buy the product based on what you're presenting to them. And the better you are at this, the higher your so-called conversion. Right? Conversion is like getting someone's attention to selling them the product that they hopefully want. So that's important. So book description. There's a couple parts that go into getting somebody to land on your page and read the book. First one is the book cover. You got to have a good book cover. If your book cover's not working hard enough, chances are you're not gonna see very many. You're not gonna get enough people's attention to convert them.
And your book cover and your description go hand in hand. The book cover will always be the first thing that they see. So hopefully it's interesting enough that they'll click on it. Then your description needs to grab them immediately. So a lot of times you'll see like a one sentence grabber, and it's not like a log line. That's not how your description would work. A log line, if you want to go back and listen to our discussion on screenplay writing, would be like a 2-sentence description of what happens. This is more like,
so imagine
maybe in character. I thought this was happening, but then it turned out it was this.
Yeah,
you want to grab them with that intrigue hook right away.
Yeah, imagine if Matrix was a book. What would you have for the first line? What if I told you everything you knew about the world was a lie?
Yeah.
Right. That would be like the grabber, because that's it. That's the Matrix.
Yeah.
What if I told you everything you knew was a lie, and then someone sees that and they're like, oh, interesting. I've tried a bunch of different book descriptions for my books. And for Muramasa, I had a quote, but I found I actually had better conversion by just going right into the description of the story.
Yeah.
And because that's what the people in my genre wanted. They didn't want a teaser. They didn't want a teaser thing, because I had this thing that was like, all men die by the sword, my sword, which is cool, but it didn't give people enough information right away for them to decide if that was interesting. But if I said, a mysterious killer is ravaging the countryside and Yoshio is on his trail with beautiful and enigmatic Amaya as his guide, right? And it's like, this sounds like a cool mystery story. I'm right away, I'm keying into what the story's about and whether that is going to appeal to someone. It's like it's got supernatural stuff. It's a mystery. It's set in Japan, in feudal Japan. There's a cursed blade. Like you get all the information you need to buy Muramasa. Then you decide, you know what, I want to read this story, and you click the purchase button, and your life is forever altered by the greatness of my work. So the description's really big, and what's cool about digital and selling stuff on Amazon directly is that you can change that as many times as you want, as frequently as you want, to do whatever you want. If it's not working, you can change it. And I've changed mine a bunch of times just to see what works and see what doesn't work, and to try to help my product, to try to make my product give a little bit better consumer product information. Because if somebody doesn't buy it, there's 2 possibilities. Possibility 1, which is the more likely no matter what, which is it's not the book they want to read.
Yeah.
Possibility number 2 is that you didn't hold their attention and give them the correct information for them to know it was the book that they wanted to read.
Yes.
Which is a fixable problem, and the problem you need to be constantly working on.
Yeah.
If you're not giving them the right information, if you're not cueing into the right things that a reader wants to see in a genre. So like mine is samurai fiction. If I'm not cluing into the stuff about feudal Japan that interests somebody in that genre, it's like a same but different kind of thing. It's like, it's feudal Japan, there's a killer swords, demon blade. The supernatural stuff. I kind of want to read one with some supernatural elements. I'll read this one. Yeah. It gives them the information that they need to actually do that. Or they could be like, I don't want to read a samurai novel that's got like magic and stuff. I'm just skipping it, which they probably wouldn't like in the book.
Yeah,
which is okay.
And you don't want those people to read the book, because they're the people who are going to give you a bad review.
Yeah,
but it's because they would have the wrong expectations.
Yeah.
So you don't want your description to give people the wrong expectations.
You want to give them the correct expectations, so they make a good decision. So the description's a big part. We're talking about pre-orders. And once you have that, you can do a pre-order.
Yeah.
So pre-orders, there's no reason. There's a reason not to do them, and there's reasons to do them. The reason not to do them is that it gets it to market faster.
Yes.
And
it also boosts all of your pre-order sales count as day 1 sales.
That's actually okay. So
No, that's not true.
yeah, Amazon
Okay.
has changed that.
Oh.
So it will count for your first. They sort of spread the metric out over the first like 2 weeks.
I see.
So, and I'm not sure why exactly. You could still, I mean, they still are important, but it's not like you're going to have this immediate because like if you spend a lot of money, you can get like your pre-orders to be really, really high in your genre, and it'll just immediately make you a #1 bestseller.
Yeah.
And then that's the goal, right? And then you have
that's
that
the goal,
badge.
'cause you
and
have the
then
badge, and whoo, is that badge good for marketing?
But Amazon was aware of that, and they're like, it's not representative of the popularity of the book overall in the genre.
Yeah.
So we're going to spread the pre-order sales out with our, they have mathematicians working on the stuff behind the scenes, and the whole goal is to make the consumer product experience better.
Yeah.
That's what Amazon's goal is. They don't want to have a bestseller sticker on something people don't want to buy, and people don't like. So it spreads it out over a certain amount of time. So you still have to make sales after day one if you really want it to make a difference. But if you have a big enough pre-order, it'll still make you a bestseller anyway.
Yeah.
The thing about pre-orders is that it's kind of advanced play, and I've run one pre-order so far.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I've just put stuff on to the market. And I ran that one pre-order because I really wanted to test out this whole process. I got a lot of pre-orders on a 99-cent ebook, and it didn't make my book go #1 in the genre at all because I didn't make any sales after that pre-order. All my YouTube subscribers went and pre-ordered the book, and then none of them bought it after it came out because I didn't do what we're talking about properly. I didn't do all the SEO stuff. I didn't do all the articles that would link to the product and rank it up and make people buy it. I didn't have quite the right book cover for the genre. It was a sci-fi book, and I didn't have a spaceship on the cover.
Yeah.
And it's something that I am aware that I did a really cool cover, and I really like it, but it's not working.
Yeah.
So at some point I'm going to have to change it here in the near future, and then do these things. And you can do these things after the fact. You don't have to do them after the fact.
Yeah, because it still exists, and you can change your cover file at any time. It usually takes, Amazon will say that it'll take up to 72 hours.
Usually takes like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
It's
usually happens pretty quick.
Yeah.
It took I recently changed the description for Cloaked in Darkness, and it took about 2 hours for it to show up. But like my book, when I first uploaded it, it took, I don't know. We were going on vacation right when that happened. So we'd been driving for like 3 hours after I put it up, and it was up after that. So that was really cool. But just like we said, there's any time you can change that when you feel like it's not working.
Yeah, if you feel like it's not working, you can change it. So if your pre-order isn't big and your launch isn't big, don't worry about it, right?
Yeah.
Play the long game. The whole idea here is that, and we should also talk about like multiple books.
Yeah.
You have to kind of play a long game if you're in the indie publishing business.
Yeah.
Which is, the long game is not book 1 or even book 2, but really book 4.
Yeah.
Your 4th book is really when, and that's what Water of Awakening is going to be for me. The 4th book is really when you should be like
really putting some money into it.
You should be practicing this stuff, and so when you get to the 4th book, your 4th or 5th book, you're really gonna make a little splash and attract some readers.
Yeah. And this is something that if you're still in the mindset of traditional publishing, and you think about your 4th book, and you're comparing yourself to people like Patrick Rothfuss, who's only written 2.
Like 2. And you're like, oh, that's 10 years from now.
No, you need. This is the thing about indie publishing: is you have to be agile. You have to be writing. You have to be more productive.
But the traditional publishing business for years had this belief that the market would not accept more than 1 book a year per author.
Yeah, and that's just not the case.
So Stephen King used to write his books under all kinds of pseudonyms because he wrote like 6 books a year, and long books, not like 6 little 50-page books. We're talking long books. He
Yeah.
wrote like 5 or 6 of them a year, and the publisher's like, we're not going to publish any more Stephen King books right now. You put out like 3 this year, it's too many. And so he started putting them out under Richard Bachman. And I think he might have had one other pin name, but I know Richard Bachman was like the main pin name that he had for years and years.
Yeah.
And so now that would be completely retarded to put out anything under a pen name that wasn't like erotica or something you didn't want your actual name attached to.
Yeah.
Because the whole point is to build your platform, and you want to have lots of products available for people to purchase.
Mm-hmm.
You want to sell as many as possible. And that if you have 5 books for sale, if somebody really likes your writing, that's 5 things that they could buy from you.
Yeah.
And if you had it under a bunch of, like, it would just be completely retarded in 2016.
It would be like telling Metallica that they needed to they had been touring too long as Metallica, so they needed to tour for part of the year under a different name.
Yeah.
It would just completely confuse the marketplace and tank sales. So
don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, so you got to kind of play the long game. Once your book is launched, you continue to do things that link to your book, right?
Yeah.
You need to continue to inform people about the existence of your book. I plug my book all the time. If I'm on a live stream, if I'm on an internet radio, I'm like, buy my book, and because you never know, there might be some random person there, and once they maybe make a decision, I'm going to read this book, or I'm interested in feudal Japan and historical fiction in feudal Japan, then I can sell them other things. But I have other fantasy books.
Yeah.
If you're European fan, you might want to check out them if you like my writing. I really need to write more stuff in the samurai fiction genre if I want to go long tail for those guys.
Right. And that's the other thing that I wanted to mention is there's a dimension of if you're just starting out, you might have had an idea for a book and you're writing in that book. You're ready to publish that book, hopefully at this point. What's important though is when you're thinking long game and you're thinking keywords and search engine optimization, it's important to really kind of stick to a genre. You need to know what you want to write about in the long game, because say, like you said, if you want to write samurai fiction, and you want to make sure that all of your content is constantly working for you, because that's how you're going to keep this conversion rate high. If you're only working on one book at a time, that's not going to be helping your conversion rate as much as if one piece of content is covering the breadth of your work.
Yeah. So this is this is kind of a long game kind of thing. If you're in one genre, it's a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I write in multiple genres, and that's because I'm in a phase. First of all, as a writer, I like to write lots of different things because I read lots of different things. And I always looked at it as like Stephen King wrote in a bunch of different genres. Like, I know everyone thinks of him as a horror writer, but he wrote high fantasy, he wrote urban fantasy, he wrote fairy tales, he wrote like all kinds of things that people don't think about as being Stephen King. But I want to see what people want to read of mine.
Yeah.
Before I start like hitting a genre really hard. Like, people seem to really like my samurai fiction, and I actually hadn't considered that would be like my main genre. And my main genre I wanted to write in was actually high fantasy. And so this next book's going to be high fantasy, and we'll see how people like it. But if it's one of those things, if you're kind of looking, if I down the road, if I'm looking at things and it's like, people are always asking me when the sequel to Muramasa is coming out. and my answer is it'll come out when I have a story.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really write that book with too many sequels in mind. Like, the characters are still there; they can have another adventure. Something else can happen to them, but I really wrote it as like my narrative structure in mind to develop that story. But if it's one of those things that it's like, that's what the market really wants me to write, is this style and this genre and this setting, then I'll write another book in it for sure. Even if it's not those characters, I have plenty of other stories I can write, supernatural stories in feudal Japan, and have it be really fun and interesting. There's other stories, I could write there. And that's kind of, that might be a long game kind of thing. Right now, I'm content to try to write in some different genres and see what people like.
Yeah.
I didn't make a splash in sci-fi, but I made a splash in samurai fiction.
Yeah.
And that's cool. That's fine. That makes me happy.
Makes me happy.
Yeah.
So, let's see. We talked a little bit about the pre-order.
Getting reviews. So the 3 parts of your landing page on Amazon. Your cover. If your cover is unprofessional, the immediate assumption from a consumer is this guy's a schmuck.
Yeah.
Next, if you have a bad cover, it's really hard for readers to get past it. You have to do so much extra work to try to convince them to overcome a crappy looking, unprofessional looking cover.
Yeah. Well, because
with blurry images or
people want to take you seriously, and a bad cover is a signal that you don't take yourself seriously.
Yeah, if you don't take yourself seriously enough to get a good cover, then no one else is going to take you seriously. The second thing is the book description, which is an important piece of consumer information. The third one is reviews. So consumers going to do a couple things. They're going to see the cover, click it, read the description, look at reviews, and then make a decision. So getting reviews is a really hard thing. This is why early on, you probably don't need to worry about pre-orders. Because I had a bunch of pre-orders and they didn't end up converting into reviews.
Yeah.
So people pre-ordered it and they read it, then they didn't go back and review it.
Yeah.
And most people don't review things. So the reviews have to be organic and it has to take time. And you have to use that platform to get people to, and Amazon doesn't like you to ask people for reviews. But
yeah, in fact, anytime there's language like the author asked me to review this, Amazon will actually delete that.
Yeah.
That review. So make sure.
I phrase it like this when I ask people to do it. I'm like, if you do read it, give a review whether you like it or not, and give your provide some consumer product information to your fellow consumers so they can make a good decision. Because that's what I want. Yeah. That's 100% the truth. I don't want I'm like, please give it a 5-star review. I need you guys to help my business. That's no, I don't want that. I want you to help other consumers make a good choice. Yeah. If you felt like your choice was good or bad, I need you to provide that information to others. Because I don't want people to buy my book who don't want it.
Yeah.
I want people to buy the book who want it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I want relevant information, whether it's good or bad. I don't want irrelevant information because there's no, if you convince a bunch of people, and this will hurt you in the long run. If you convince a bunch of people to buy and review your book who don't like it, and if you somehow are like a great salesman and you convince people to buy an ebook, if you convince them to buy a $10 ebook, and it's not $10 worth of awesomeness, they're going to give you a 2-star, 1-star review, and that's going to hurt you. Yeah. You don't want that. You want, if somebody's going to buy a $10 ebook from you. And I don't recommend a $10 ebook. We should talk about pricing.
We'll have to talk about pricing.
We're at the very end here. I'm going to say pricing real quick. 99 cents if you're starting out, or free. And there's some ways that you can do perma-free.
That's gonna get you more reviews.
Not more than $2.99 unless you feel like you can deliver value at $4.99. Not more than $4.99 pretty much ever for an ebook. $10.99 only if it's like I can't even, unbelievable value for $10.99. Like, all the books in a series would be $10.99 in ebook format. Or, a really serious nonfiction book.
Yeah.
Like how to grow your wealth in 10 easy steps might be a $10.99 ebook.
Yeah, if it works.
If it works. and you got 100 5-star reviews that's like, this is great, I made $20K this year. I saved $20,000. I had $20,000 extra dollars in my bank account thanks to what's said in this book. Then people are going to look at that and immediately understand the value is there and buy a $10.99 ebook.
Anyway, that's all the time we got. This is Jay. You can find me at MatthewJWellman.com.
This is Stu. You can find me at DavidBStewart.com and DBSPress.com. We will see you next time.